Alright, so I know it's windy outside, but I've decided I wanted to go for a walk. So, I'm actually walking down across this field, and I figured, you know what am I going to do while I'm walking down here? I've decided I would tell a couple of short stories. Years ago when I was a kid, this is story number 1 if you haven't noticed, but years ago when I was a kid, this field was corn, and we had the dairy here, which we sold in 2011, for those of you that did not know that I milked cows up to that point. I didn't milk them full time, my dad was the dairyman. But anyways, we had chopped corn off of this field, and we had planted rye in it. And this is the K31 that I planted this spring, by the way. K31, and there's some orchard in there. We sprayed it with 2,4-D, and that did a good job. But anyway, when we were done chopping, we planted rye in there, and we were finished filling silo. We parked a unloading wagon at the top of the field. Well, it was probably September when this happened. We got a windstorm. I believe it was a hurricane, and it blew that wagon. It blew it, and then the tongue turned, and the wagon took off down across this field. Well, it was up where that trench silo is, where I have the, you see the camper to the right, that building there. That's an old trench silo that I turned into a building a few years back. Anyways, it stood about there, and it got to about where I am right now, before the tongue jabbed into the ground. And I forget what hurricane, Hurricane Gloria. I'm trying to cover this thing here. But anyways, that's story number 1. When I get to another spot. Okay, so here's a little update, and the beginning of story number 2. Update is right here. This is the grass that Timothy planted with the 720 a couple of videos back. You can see it just growing really nice there. That is really nice. So I'm pretty happy about that. Okay, story number 2. Years ago when we had the dairy and a cow died, we used to get them collected for a... Is somebody whistling at me? Huh, weird. Anyways, we used to have the dead animals collected for $1. Guy would come out, hoist them onto a truck. Then the price went up, and then it got to like $400, and my dad's like, fuck this, we ain't doing that no more. I don't think they ever got over $20, to be honest with you. But anyways, we used to drag them down here. And this was the boneyard. We used to dump them in the ditch there, and, you know, but that kind of got to the point where, you know, not sanitary for anybody downstream, but here's some of the remnants of that. Right there. There's a cow skull. Here's some bones. Here's some bones. Now these bones are 25, 30 years old, and here's some ribs and stuff, but here's hip bones and things like that. But there's a cow skull with bullet holes in it. So that animal obviously needed to be shot because there's bullet holes in its head. Wow. It is now illegal to shoot your own animals. In the state of New Jersey, you have to have them euthanized by a vet. Thank God I don't have cows anymore, because I think that's ridiculous. But anyways, at the beginning, well, to finish up this short story, me and a friend of mine, Jamie Novak, were down here one time playing in a creek, and there was a dead cow at this very spot. It wasn't that one, I'm sure, but it laid in the ditch here, and I remember he jumped up on top of it and started bouncing up and down on the rib cage of this dead animal that had been dead for quite a while, and it smelled and it was terrible and everything. And you guessed it, man, he fell through the rib cage and got goo all over his feet. So that's short story number 2. Short story number 3. In this spot on the farm, a friend of mine wanted to go deer hunting, and he wanted to put up a deer stand in this very spot. Matter of fact, I think it might even be this very tree here, because you can see that there's like spots where there were spikes and stuff put in it. But anyway, there's a deer stand right there. That belongs to my cousin. Now, he wanted to hunt in this spot so bad, but there was another hunter that had built a deer stand like right there, and that tree is gone because there's the stump to it. And what the idiot did was he came down and he cut that guy's deer stand out of the tree, and then he went ahead and built his deer stand right here. Needless to say, the hunter that had his deer stand over there kind of figured out who did it and was not happy. So that's short story number 3. Short story number 4. And this is probably going to be news to my parents, which I'm going to say it anyway, even though they do watch the videos. A friend of mine, Daniel Search, and me decided we were going to go bow hunting. And we were here at this spot, only just up there a little ways. And Danny had brought some brandy to keep himself warm. And we both sat in the same tree and proceeded to, I don't know, it wasn't much, but we were pretty tipsy. By the time we got out of the tree, it wasn't a smart idea to be in a tree with broadheads, a bow, and alcohol when you're about, I don't know, I might have been 15, 16 years old. It was stupid, you know. I had to be about 14 or 15. Anyway, we got to giggling and carrying on down here, and there was another hunter, and he started yelling at us. And apparently he must not have ever told my mom and dad, but I just did. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Dad. Okay, now I'm at a spot where I can do short story number 5 and number 6. Short story number 5 is me and my uncle were hunting, and it was cold and nasty. They were forecasting snow, and we hadn't seen anything all day. It starts to snow, and I'm all camoed up, and he is too. You know, we have our orange hats on and stuff. But it started to snow. We got about 6 inches of snow, and we got halfway through the morning, and there's a good bit of snow on the ground. So I went up to the house and I put on, and it was windy and nasty. I went and put on one of those Tyvek chemical suits that was white, and I put my orange hat on, and I had my ammunition in there, and I was the only one to get a deer that day. And short story number 6 happened right down in the creek down there, and I'll tell you what happened there when I was a youngster. And I mean, me and my friend Daniel Search again were down there, and we found clothes. Yes, young ladies' clothes. It just so happened to be my sister's clothes. Now, they weren't completely naked, and I may have said this story before, but so we took the clothes, we climbed up in a tree, and we hung them up high in a tree. And when my sisters came down, they were topless, and they had a friend who was also topless, Heather Dorff. If you watch my videos, you'll know the incident. And of course, they're holding over their chests because maybe they were 12, 13 years old at that time, 12, 13, 14 in that age range. So they were developed, but they were not shy about swimming in their underwear, their bottom underwear, and leaving the rest of their clothes. And needless to say, one of them had to climb up the tree to get their clothes out of there. So that's number 6. Okay, short story number 7. Deer stand there. Right about 20 yards behind that, there used to be a little wooden deer stand. And we were bow hunting, me and my friend Danny. Me and him were down in the woods a lot, all the time. I mean, if we could be down here, we were better off down here than driving my mom and terrorizing the animals up at the top. But anyway, we went hunting here, and I had been in the tree a couple hours, and I get antsy. I hate sitting up there bow hunting. And I got out of the tree real quiet, and I walk down the trail to where my friend Danny's up in the tree, and right behind him is 3 deer, an old doe and 2 fawns. Well, we didn't give a shit what we shot. We were just going to kill something, you know. So I'm like, I got my bow half drawn back, and I'm like, oh my God, he's right there. He's got to see him. He's got to see him. He's got to see him. So they're looking up at the tree at him, and they're not seeing me. They're 20, 30 yards away. I'd snuck up on them pretty good. I was all camoed up, you know. I used to get that grease stuff and put on my face. Anyways, they did catch wind of me, and boom, they took off. Well, here he had gotten tired and had taken his quill and wrapped it around the tree and tied it off, so he was up there sleeping. This is a short story that happened long before I was born, and it has to do with my mom and dad and a beech tree. My mother's name is Jenny, and my father wrote that because I remember when I was a kid seeing that down here. And we are pretty far from home at this point. So, and on the other side of this very same tree, there's some older stuff, and I used to know. Here's a heart. Now I know who wrote that, and it's overgrown. And this actually used to be my name. It was Wes was here, and it was done too small, so the bark has overgrown it. But this was Danny and a girl by the name of Brenda Weiss. So it was DS and then a little and BW, Brenda Weiss, and that was his. So there's another one. Ooh, it had a limb fall down from way up high and damn near killed me. Could have been the end of me and you just saw it on film. Okay, on to the next one. Okay, this is short story number 8. Right here, right up here, where that broken off tree is right there, boom, there was a deer stand. Now, I'd like to walk up there, but the stickers are pretty bad. But right there was a deer stand. And on the other side of this woods, there's that field I told short story number 2 in. And I had a deer stand there, and a buck had run down from above, and I had shot it. Well, he wasn't doing too good, and he ran through the woods, and it laid down right up there. Well, there was a guy in a deer stand just a little bit to the left of that, and the buck had laid down to the right, and it laid there, and I walked up on it maybe 25 yards away. It wasn't even 20, 10, 15 yards away. It was still alive, and I put a round in it in a safe direction, but the guy about fell out of his deer stand, and he was pissed because I had shot towards him, which I hadn't. I had shot on an angle, like a 45-degree angle away from him. But anyways, that's short story number 7, and I think I'm getting quite a few short stories here, and I think I got maybe 1 or 2 more that I can remember as I go up through. Here's a spot that brings back a lot of shitty memories. Excuse the language. But there's a reason I use that particular word. Okay, there was a guy that used to hunt right here at this very spot. The tree they used to hunt out of is actually right there, leaning sideways. Hurricane Sandy had taken it down, and of course the deer stand is long since gone. But anyways, about 2-3 days before hunting season, the owner of that deer stand, who hunted on my property, on the home farm here, not my property, but the family property, he pissed me off. He was just being a real dick, you know. It was muzzleloader season, and it was before 6-day firearm, so I don't remember what the hell he said. Anyways, he was just having problems, but the deal was, I came down here the night before deer season, and I took a crap right in the seat of his deer stand. Yep, I did. Wasn't very nice, but I believe that's number 8. Short story number 8. Okay, what else do I have here? Story number 9. Pretty shitty story. Well, years ago, my sister Wendy, who has now passed away from cancer, she had a 1980 Ford F-250 truck. It was 2-wheel drive. And she had a scumbag boyfriend by the name of Mike Murphy, and he took it for a ride and crashed it into a telephone pole and stoved in the cab on the passenger side, but it was still drivable. So it got parked here at the farm, and I used it as a field truck for a couple of years. Anyways, what I'm walking on here is a water diversion, or a terrace as they call them here in New Jersey, and they make awesome ramps. So it was this time of year, and the corn had been chopped, and I don't think we had put rye down that time, but right here it's really quite a ramp. And me and my little sister Ella were in this truck, and I was driving, and I hit this at about 30 miles an hour. Well, there's a hell of a drop off there, and that thing had a 351 Windsor in it, and it could fly. Well, we hit this terrace here, and if you ever saw that movie Romancing the Stone, when they took that Ford Bronco and they jumped it across the river and it bounced on the bumper, like boom, boom, boom? Well, that's what we did. Stalled out the truck, the seat belts tightened up, slammed their asses so hard into that bench seat that I thought it broke my tailbone. Ella, my little sister, she promptly climbed, said, "Get me out of here. She was about 13 or 14 years old. Maybe. I don't even think she was that old. Used to torture the hell out of that kid anyway. But, so I let her out, and she walked home because the truck wouldn't start up for a little while. Because, you know, they were old carbureted deals and smelled like gas, and she thought it was going to blow up, you know, as an 8 or 10-year-old kid would have thought. So anyway, yeah, that was one of the fun stories. Full circle to back below the farm here where I started out. And I think this is going to be short story number 10, the final one, and again it has to do with deer. Deer! Well, this was back in the early 90s. I got married in 91. Yeah, I was young. And my dad had just bought a Browning 3.5-inch 12-gauge pump shotgun. And my grandmother's house is right up there. And my dad saw a herd of deer down here. So he comes out of the house, down the washout, the ditch. He pops up on the other side, pulls the gun up, and bang! And 3 deer fall over. Pulls up again, bang! Another deer. He dumped 5 deer in one spot with 3 shots. My mom and dad's house is over here to the right. And, you know, I was there, and I heard the shooting. This is before cell phones. I heard the shooting. I grabbed the 12 gauge and I head down here, right down along this fence line, and meet up with another kid, young kid, and he starts hammering away with an old Remington 1100 2 3/4, and I had my 870 Wingmaster pump. He pops off 7 or 8 rounds. Now this herd of deer was like 100. It was a lot. They come through the fence line and they're continuing to go. The guy dumped over 2. My wife runs down farther with a 20 gauge, and she had slugs. I believe she had slugs. She might have had the 12, I don't know. She capped off a couple rounds, missed. I don't think she got one. But by the time it was all said and done, we had a total of 7 deer. Yeah, I had gotten 2, she didn't get any. We had 7 deer in this event. My uncle, he came down from the far end of the farm, and there was, I think he had gotten 1 over on the other side. He started it. Oh, anyways, there was a time it was done, we had 7. I think he had 1. He wasn't one to, you know, shoot a bunch of deer. 1 is enough for him, and he wasn't much for breaking the law. So we ran around all the time, but if there was a deer to kill and he had a tag to use, he would just use that tag. Me, on the other hand, I'd kill a bunch of them and go find tags, find people with tags, and that was that. But we had some serious deer problems down here. But anyway, that concludes One Lonely Farmer's exhausting walk and story time. So thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out onelonelyfarmer.com for these awesome sweatshirts. Now this is embroidered, beautiful, smoke-colored, embroidered sweatshirts that on a day that's 38 degrees today, I'm warm. So anyways, thanks again. Hope you enjoyed it. And this is my new camera, so I'm trying to figure out how to shut it off with my left hand.